live during the community. And I wanted to say welcome, Trevor.
Well, hello there, everybody. How's everybody doing today? I'll wait for your chat responses, but I'll continue to talk. Here we go. So I'm just going to jump into my presentation here because, Craig talks about introducing yourself. Well, I've actually got an introduction slide here. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what I'm actually going to be talking to you guys about, which is how to make your first big sale. And I mean, I know that times are kind of different right now and everybody's trying to figure out when we're going to get out of this thing. Well, when you get out, you have to also figure out how you're going to keep your business going. And sometimes when it comes to sales is really hard for entrepreneurs. They find it really challenging. So what I'd like to do is just share a little bit of knowledge with you guys and try to help point you in the right direction and help you make your business better once we're over and through this thing.
So we've been working together for a while, and I take it for granted what you know and who you are. But can you introduce yourself to the group that is here and why we should listen to you, Trevor?
Well, yes, that's why I said in my slide I have an introduction page.
Fabulous. That's great. Well, he gets that going. I've been working with Trevor, I'm going to say, for 3 to 4 years now. You can correct me if I'm wrong. It's a blur. Trevor
it's about that long.
Yeah, Trevor and Candace from SongBird Marketing. I think I saw Candace in the chat room there. They both come in and help mentor our startups and work with our startups and been involved with TorontoStarts for a long period of time. You may or may not have seen them as active recently because they have a newborn. And how's that going?
Well, actually, she's not really a newborn anymore.
Not anymore.
She's almost 2, but
Holy crap.
Yeah, she is running us ragged right now. It's challenging to keep up with her for sure. She just discovered how to jump onto the couch right now. So
nice.
trying to keep her off the furniture is challenging.
I remember those days, and yeah, I guess time flies when we see each other every 3 or 4 months, and then yeah, it's crazy. I can't believe 2 years. Wow.
Yeah. Okay, so you guys can see my screen now?
Yes.
Perfect. I had a little bit of a challenge there at first. I got it going here though. All right, so this was the introduction slide I was talking about. Craig was like wanting me to make sure I introduced myself. So I'm a managing partner of a company called SongBird Marketing Communications, and we are a marketing and PR firm located in Ontario now, as we were in Toronto, but now we are actually out of Brantford, Ontario. But we do marketing and PR for small businesses, entrepreneurs, and even some large businesses as well. I've been doing sales and marketing for, actually I should change this slide because it's over 25 years now. Wow. Yeah, anyways, so I'm one of those types of people who really enjoys helping entrepreneurs and startups figure out what it is they need to do to build and grow their businesses, which is one of the reasons why we have partnered with Craig and working with him to help all of his startups in the startup community. So we actually spent a lot of time working together, doing workshops and mentoring others. And for me, I find that it's very good for me to give back. It's helpful for my sanity, and I do enjoy working with Craig a lot, I must say. So on to our presentation. So
I just wanted to say, sorry, anybody who asks questions, feel free to answer in the Q&A window. Both Trevor and I will be monitoring it, and we'll try and answer it where appropriate throughout the presentation or at the end. But yeah, we want to make it interactive, so ask your questions so we can give you direct advice.
Yes, please, because I don't like to be in a position where I'm just talking at people. So I prefer to have a conversation with people. So please feel free to ask your questions as we're going, if you have any. So the first question that I usually ask people when I meet them and want to talk to them about their business is, how do you actually sell your product or service? And sometimes, depending on the person, you can get a really detailed answer as to how they do that. Other times I get crickets. And I kind of get the impression that a lot of the people are either lost, confused, unsure, don't know what it is that they need to do. And they literally look at me like, what do you mean I have to sell stuff? And I say to them, yes, you pretty much have to sell your business, because if you can't sell your business, you won't really have one. So I always like to start to talk about, what are the fundamentals and why would you want to have to learn these fundamentals? Because just like in any other sport, when you're learning a new sport, you need to learn the basics of it. And if you're gonna try to play hockey, you need to learn how to skate first. Then you need to learn how to hold the stick. Then you need to learn how to hold the stick and manage a puck. So these are the types of things that I like to share with people when we're talking about making a sale. So what technically are the elements of making a sale? Well, to make a sale, you have to master these three things. Your product fit. Is your product something that people want to buy? You can have the greatest product in the world, but if nobody wants to buy it, it doesn't really matter. Nobody's going to buy your thing if it doesn't do anything for them. Second element that we want to talk about is your marketing message. Can you show people how your product, if they want to buy it, will be the perfect solution for their needs? And what this means essentially is, can you do what you say you can do? And the last important element is social proof. Have you been able to help other people who have had the same problem that they're having? And if so, how successful were you at doing it? All of these three things put together are what's going to help you turn that prospect into a client. So let's talk a little bit about the product fit. When it comes to the product fit, the biggest question you need to ask yourself is, do you know how your product or service benefits your potential customers? And you have to be able to succinctly describe all of those things in an effort to be able to help people understand how you're going to be able to help them with their problem. A lot of the times when we're talking about businesses, there's a service or a product, we talk about it in problem solving ways, so that your customer has a problem and your product is going to be the solution to that problem. And if you can explain to them how that's going to happen, then it makes it easier for them to be able to make a decision. So in finding your product fit, what is it that makes your product unique? So when you're looking at your service against anybody else's, because obviously I'm assuming that if you've got a product, you've all done your competitive analysis and figured out who your competition is and what it is that they're doing and how you can sell your product against theirs. If you haven't, then that's probably the place that you should really start, because one of the things that you always are going to find is that somebody else is going to be out there who may be interested in doing it cheaper, faster, or better than you. And you have to be able to figure out how you can sell against that. So what is it that makes you stand out? Do you have a better customer service app? Do you have a better product in general? Does your product do something that theirs doesn't? Are you just a better salesperson than them? Who knows? There are always these types of things that you can think about when it comes to your product or service that make it stand out. Who is your target audience? So if you were to ask any person who has a product or a service, do they know who they're selling to and how they're going to find them? A lot of the times the answer to that question is, I'm not exactly sure. They feel that they can sell to anybody and everybody. And I've always been of the mind that if your product is something that you can sell to everybody, then you're going to sell to nobody, because you can't differentiate enough to be able to identify the key people who are going to want to buy your service or product. So your messaging will be completely out of whack. It won't resonate with anybody. And so one way to do that is to look at your buyer personas. And I'm not sure if anybody here is familiar with how buyer personas work, but typically what a buyer persona is, it is I guess the best word to describe it is an individual ideal person who you want to sell your service or product to. They are the ones who are going to buy your thing. And we use multiple names for them. We call them target audience. You can say they're your ideal clients, but ideally it's a, I guess the best way to describe it is to show you how I would make one. So if you take a specific buyer persona, let's say you wanted to talk to teachers. All right. So you would look at thinking about what teachers would buy. All right. So you think about what the average teacher would be. You could even give them a name if you want, if it would help you figure it out better. But what's their age? What's their age range? We know what their profession is. There's a teacher. So what types of things do teachers like to do? Where do they like to hang out? And this is where you start getting into the buyer behaviors part, where we're talking about, where they're going to go, what they're going to see, who they're interacting with. And when you put all of these things together, you actually have now not only a target audience, but also where you're going to be able to find them. So you can look at where they're going to be on social media, if they're going to be on your if they're going to be on any social media, so Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. If your audience is on Twitter and you're posting your stuff on Facebook, those two things will never meet. So none of those people will be getting your messaging. So you need to understand where the behaviors are, what the behaviors are of your ideal clients, so you can be able to target them appropriately. Now we're on to your marketing message. So Candace, when we're working with our clients, one of the things that she's always kind of made as an important thing for people to understand is that content is king. It is something that you have to be very cognizant of, because your content is really how your brand is defined. So why is your content important? It really helps people decide whether or not you can solve their problem. And where does things like your content matter? Well, it's a lot, actually, because on your website, what's the content you're putting on your website? Do you have information that will help them with the buying decision? Are you leading them down the path to making a purchase? What does your blog say? Are you educating your customers? Because educated customers are obviously the best customers, because they'll be able to identify whether or not you be able to solve their problem. Your sales materials. What is it that you're saying to your customers when you're putting out your advertising, putting out your brochures? When you go to a trade show, what does your signage say? All of those things are very important, and they all are part of your content messaging. Your social media. What are you posting? And even could go so far as, when are you posting? Because if you're posting at a time when nobody's actually seeing your content, then you're really just blown into the wind at that point, and then nothing is going to happen. Social proof. How are we doing on time here?
Lots of time.
Yeah. All right. So social proof. Do we have any questions so far, actually?
Nothing has appeared to. Oh, hang on. How should your sales technique change during the pandemic?
I really don't think it should change per se. Because really you should have empathy for people on a regular basis. If you are just showing that you are empathetic to everybody's situation, and you understand that times are tough for not just them, but everybody, and try to work in a way that is beneficial to both you and the person you're selling to, I think that's what's going to help you move the needle. And really be genuine, because at the end of the day, people buy from people. There's just no way around that. You could be selling B2B and selling to big companies, but at the end of the day, you're selling to people. And so you have to be personable and genuine, and you have to be able to relate to people. And if you can do that and show that, then you're going to have a good chance of getting out of this pandemic better off than other people who can't.
I would say that, maybe your sales technique during the pandemic doesn't change, but maybe how you approach what's going on changes. I'm working with a startup who, we were just chatting, and I said, why aren't you connecting with this other startup and offering your services at cost to these other people, the people in the this industry and this industry and this industry who currently really need it? And actually they're starting to work together right now. I don't want to, be tell tales at a school because nothing's happening yet. And I don't, but the point is that there's opportunities where they're going to potentially help people delivering medical products, delivering food, delivering all these things because of their technology and relationships, and one that'll help them build their customer base, but at the same time it helps in a need right now and builds a co-creation state where you're working with partners, and also builds media marketing and PR around what you're doing. So again, being authentic and actually trying to help. Say, we're not trying to profit, but long term this will be profitable for my business because we'll be in a relationship. You'll have my technology, we'll have subscription fees going or what have you. So there's a lot of ways to approach it, and not necessarily changing your sales technique, but maybe trying things that aren't selling to get your customers.
Yeah, partnering with businesses that are not comparable to yours, but complementary to yours is actually something that's very good to be doing, regardless of whether or not we're in a pandemic situation. But even just more so important now, because again, it fosters your feeling of helping others and trying to be of service to others. And you can share information, you can share leads, you can do all kinds of different things that will help you build your businesses together. Because I mean, you can go fast alone, or you can go farther together. And I always find that going farther together is better. So that's where I see it for that one.
And I see, John, you've put a couple questions here. Those questions look like they're good for near the end of the presentation, so we'll save those specific ones. Keep going, Trevor.
Okay, sweet. All right. So let's talk a little bit about social proof. So when you're thinking about social proof, one of the questions that you always want to ask yourself is, well, how do people usually buy things? So, I mean, how would you determine when you're ready to buy something, what you would do? Most people these days, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to go to Google. They're going to type either your product name or your company name, or even the problem that they're having into the Google search engine, and hope and pray that it comes back with an answer. It probably will. There might be a million of them, but you're going to get an answer of some sort. They look to social media. They put out feelers on Facebook. I don't know how many times I've seen people asking for recommendations on Facebook, or looking on Twitter and looking at certain hashtags for certain products types and stuff. Candace is consistently looking for things on social media for information on people, what they're using, how they're using it, whether or not it's been good for them. So testimonials actually will play a very big part in these types of things. The other thing is, if you're in a service business, Yelp is something that's people actually, is Yelp still really valid right about now? I mean, nobody's going to any of these services, but I mean, I would think that at some point when it comes back, it's going to be a big deal. But services like Yelp or any of those other types of review platforms will start to pick up. And so you want to make sure that you're either on them or you are managing your reputation on them in some way, shape, or form.
It's almost even more importantly now, though, because having good reviews and responses on Yelp and other platforms drives your Google rankings, and people are searching for you. You want to be at the top of the page.
Yeah.
So maybe
and it's all kind of interconnected as well. So yeah, it's very important to make sure that when people are talking about your business, it's always in a positive light. So these are the things that people will do. These are places that they'll go to look for something when they're ready to buy a specific product or service. So that means that they're now interested in looking to solve the problem that they have. So in a sales process, we talk usually about what's called a buyer's journey. And a buyer's journey is what an individual buyer would go through when they're trying to solve a problem that they have. So when you think about it, when you're looking to buy something, what do you do? First off, you realize that you have a problem, so you're going to go looking for a solution. When you go looking for that solution, you start thinking about, okay, I've now found a whole bunch of different things that will let me figure out where I want to buy this thing from. and then you create a short list of who you're going to purchase from, and then you make a decision based on all of the information that you have available. That's typically how most people buy things when it comes to normal things. I mean, there's obviously impulse purchases. I mean, obviously you don't necessarily go through this entire process when you're standing in a grocery store and you're ready to buy a chocolate bar from the candy tray. However, deciding which chocolate bar you may go through all of these stages, but I mean, you typically when you're buying something that's a fairly large price, you would go through these three stages to understand what the best route is for you to go. Think about when you're buying a car. When you buy a car, do you just go to the first dealership you look for, or do you actually look online to find information about, you know, the ratings for the car, their mileage, all of those other things that are important to people? You'll find somebody online who's been talking about them. So these are some things that you want to keep in mind when you're talking about selling. If you're going to sell to somebody and you want them to buy it, your product has to meet their needs. If it doesn't, it does not matter what you are selling. You could have the cure to cancer. If nobody wants it, it does not matter. Buyers only care about what it is that you have is going to do for them. So when you're talking about your product, make sure you're framing it in such a way that you're explaining to them what it is your product does and how it's going to benefit them. This is benefits in selling is a really big thing. Don't ever undersell the benefits of your product or service. That is what's going to get you through the door. Showing your value to your prospects. So people increasingly over the last, well, I've actually done it over the last while, but just in general, are going to want to buy something that has a much more intrinsic value to them than the price. Sometimes people will find that the lowest price isn't always the best. Unfortunately, in this world, there's a lot of commodities. And so from a pricing perspective, it's literally like a race to the bottom. But you want to make sure that you are not in that situation, because the lowest price is not always the best product. And years ago, there was this thing when Xerox was actually selling photocopiers. They were never the lowest price photocopier, and they were quite proud of that. And they would actually tell their sales reps, says, look, if you want a cheap photocopier, don't come to us. We're not going to sell you one. We're going to sell you the best photocopier in the market, and it's going to cost you $10,000 to do so. Shows you how old I am, because clearly the photocopiers don't cost that much anymore. But I'm just saying, back in the day, the Xerox sales training, that's what they did. When it came to price wars, there was no such thing as price wars. They would walk away from business because people didn't value the product that they were trying to sell. So you want to make sure that you show your value to your prospect, and once you've shown them your value, then they will pay the price that you've asked them to pay. Next thing is help your prospect help themselves. You could Google how to close a sale and get millions of responses on how to do that. But at the end of the day, the best way to close a sale is always going to be this: help people make the right decisions. There are no tricks in the world. There's no sales techniques. There's no Jedi mind tricks that will help people buy something from you. What you need to make sure that they understand is this product is going to help me do what I need to do, and they will sell themselves once you get them on board with that. Once you show them that your product will do what you say it will do and will help them solve the problem they have, they will sell themselves. You do not need to do any fancy tricks or anything like that. All you need to do is point them in the right direction. And the last one, which is also very important, is you really need to gain the trust of your prospect. If people think you're just, a fly-by-night con man, they're not going to buy from you. But if you can show them that you're a trusted resource and that your product or service will help them in a way that they need, then you will be able to gain their trust. And then once you've gained their trust, you're going to be able to get to get past even the initial phone call. Because I got to tell you, nobody buys from those duck cleaning people when they call them the first time. I don't know why those guys keep trying to call people. Nobody buys them. But I'd be willing to bet if the person who called you had tried to gain your trust first and actually started to talk to you about trying to ensure that you understood what it is that they were selling and maybe that they were legitimately doing this business, they'd probably have a better shot at it, right? But trust is a really important part of selling. If you don't have it, nobody's ever going to buy from you. It's just that simple. Nobody wants to buy anything from a shyster.
It's funny, you put a few things on there, and pricing is very important. And I think I'm going to have to do a whole other session on pricing. You know, you mentioned that at the beginning. And a lot of people undervalue their product, and a lot of startups come to me and they're doing a $49.99 or $99 a month thing. And I'm telling them that what they need to be doing is maybe charging $500 a month, but offering the service that the customer wants rather than a product. And then the customer has this huge mountain to climb to implement and get the results they want. So it becomes who's your client, who's your target audience, what experience you want to have, and can you afford to give that to them at that price, or do you really need to charge more to have the right support staff, the right models in place, the right onboarding to bring them in? And not only that, but show the value. Understand the pricing is so important to who your clients are, that you really need to spend a lot of time on that.
And the other thing about pricing is you also got to think about, well, if somebody else is charging $49.99 for it, what is it that their customers are getting? Because I'd be willing to bet that to give out something at that price, if it's worth actually $500, there's a lot of stuff that's going to be cut out. And the path of least resistance for a lot of people is a very, very high motivating factor. So if I'm going to pay $49.99, but I have to do all of these other things, and also maybe if I want some extra service, pay another additional $10 or $15 a month or whatever, as opposed to just paying $200 a month out front and not have to worry about anything, to some people that might be more valuable.
Oh, right? Absolutely. Yeah, let me give you an example. One of the companies I was talking to a while ago, they were doing they had software for marketing funnels for your website. And they were charging, whatever the price was. And I said, great, but here's the same thing. You're going to charge $49.99 or $99.99. People are going to come in. They're going to have trouble building the forms, building the flow of the funnel, extracting the data, connecting it to external, getting the reports. Or you could charge I just random number, $500 a month, and say, listen, we're going to walk you through this. We're going to build your funnels for you. We're going to do this. We're going to help you with your drip email campaign. We're going to put all this together and then start putting the reporting package together. And anytime you want changes, we're here to help. So understand, which one do you want to pay for?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And some people are just, because they're so money conscious, they don't necessarily see that. But if you can show the people that you have that type of value available to them, they will pay the higher price simply because that's the path of least resistance for them.
Yeah, and I agree. There are people who want to go, and I'm one of those people most of the time, who want to go with the techie solution and the low price so I can fiddle with the knobs, for lack of a better word. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, who's going to get the happier customers? The person who's getting, I'm getting the reports I want with a very short period of time. My funnels are getting implemented the way I want. I'm discussing with my support person, once a day as we're getting through this, or the person who has to do, all this work themselves and may not get any of it implemented.
Mm-hmm. Or who just thinks they have the knowledge to be able to do so and they can't.
Yeah, and when you talk about trust and testimonials and clients, the white glove service is going to be better. So just from getting that back, but it's a question of adding that value, and having that support structure costs way more money than you can afford at $49 or $99 a month.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And if you're trying to win a price war, actually nobody wins a price war. There's no way around that. I don't know what the gas prices are like in Toronto, but out here, but the gas prices are like 70 cents a liter now. And the reason why that's happening is because there's a huge oil price war going on right now, and it is driving down the price for pretty much everything, which is great for us. Unfortunately, we've got nowhere to go. But I mean, it's good for us that the price wars exist. But at the end of the day, the companies who've created it don't win anything. All they're doing is just devaluing their product. And now, of course, don't send me hate mail because I was talking about gas prices and stuff, because that's a touchy subject for a lot of people. But it was just the easiest way to show how price war actually affects things sometimes down the line for everybody else.
Yeah, and I interrupted you. You're on to the next slide.
Oh, well, yeah, that's cool. It was just a final thought. So the biggest thing I think for most prospects when it comes to what it is that they're going to buy, the biggest thing that they fear the most is making the wrong decision. There's nobody's telling them what the right decision is. It's really challenging for a lot of people because they will start to second guess themselves. There's a whole chapter on the psychology of sales when it comes to buyer's remorse, people wondering, thinking that they've made the wrong choice, and they get paralyzed by fear of making a wrong decision. And so a lot of the times that's what stalls a lot of actual sales. If your customer hasn't decided whether or not one way or the other that you're the right person for them, or they haven't responded to you, is pretty much a good indicator that they just can't seem to make a decision on whether or not you're the right person for them. Because when they do, it's pretty decisive. They'll move pretty quickly to start working with you once they decided you're the right person. And if they're scared of making the wrong decision, they will delay that decision for a long time. Maybe a prospect will never come back to you just because of that reason.
Definitely. So we got a couple of questions here. Oh, there you go. What questions do you have? We got John here was asking, and you may be biased here, but how would you choose a marketer to work with? What are the basics to look for?
Well, trust is a big thing. So if you know somebody who is working with a current marketer and they're doing well with them, ask them their opinion of that particular company. The best way to look is for testimonials. Find out who's worked with these people before. You can also look at the things like what we're doing now. Do you trust that I know what I'm talking about? Because if so, then we should have a conversation if you want to work with a marketer. So you want to do your research and try to figure out the best person or team for you to work with. And you can attend things like this. You can look online to get reviews from other people. Google's a great place to start for these types of things. Check out their website, see if they feel comfortable. Really, at the end of the day, John, the biggest thing for you is, are you comfortable with the person you've chosen to talk to about your marketing issues? If you're not, then find somebody else. That's the biggest thing for me.
I agree. And I think, John, you have to figure out what your marketing needs are, because marketing is such a big term. You could be talking about, I need help with Facebook ads. Okay. That's just such a small piece of what you need. So maybe, because of your next question is, could it get some expectations so the market looks like from an expense perspective? And so if going in, are you looking for a whole rebranding? Are you looking for help with my marketing message? Are you looking for a marketing campaign? All these things have different costs and have different packages and approaches, and might want to join different teams. If you need SEO marketing, if you need this, definitely talk to people like Trevor and Candace from SongBird Marketing, because they'll point you in the right direction, because you need to figure out what it is, the package you need, and then what you can afford from that. So having said that, a lot of startups I work with don't have a lot of money, what kind of packages can they expect? Where does marketing, what do your packages start at?
So we actually have small business marketing packages, which would be good for startups, where we will actually do a couple of different things. So we can actually we have what we call the social media starter kit, which seems to be a very popular one because social media is very important to businesses to help them grow. And our social media starter kit actually is one of those packages where we will take a look at your current situation from a marketing perspective, help you figure out what your messaging should be, what you should be saying to your customers, and then help you understand how you can do that via social media. We will walk you through the tips and tricks that you need to know to make the best out of your social media presence, and then also teach you how to going forward how to continually do that. And we also have a what we call a brand and business package, which is really to help you with the strategy of your business. If you're not really sure where your business is going, how to best position your business, that our brand and business strategy package would allow you to do that. We've got both of those information on both of those packages on our website at songbirdmarketing.com. We also offer a couple of other business packages, but I know we don't have a lot of time to talk about all of them here. But I mean, we'd certainly be open to having a conversation about what it is that you need. Just to one point about what Craig was talking about with figuring out what you need. A lot of the times, small businesses don't really know what they need because they don't know what they don't know. And so sometimes it's just better to have a conversation with somebody who's knowledgeable in marketing and not trying to get a feel for what it is that you need to do with your business. And if you have any questions or struggling or if there's any gaps, we can help point you in the right direction for that.
Yeah, that sounds great. And you need to understand it. If you know what your cost per acquisition of your client are, then your marketing budget becomes a lot clearer, or at least you can see where the lines are a lot clearer.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things I found out over the course of time as we've been working with businesses is that sometimes people just kind of fall into a business. They have a hobby. They just started doing something they like, and all of a sudden people started buying it from them. And then next thing you know, all of a sudden they've got a business, but they don't really know what to do after that. They just know that they can make stuff, they can sell it, or they can have a service that people want to buy, but that's about as far as it goes. And they know how to kind of run their business, but they don't know how to build a business. And that is where we come in. We can actually point you in the right direction and give you the answers that you need to help you do that from a brand and marketing perspective.
So another question here in the chat room is, should I adjust my pricing strategy during this time if sales are slower?
I would say no, but it really depends on the business that you're in and what it is that we're talking about. Because I mean, the one thing that you don't want to have is a situation where people think that you are not behaving honorably in this regard. And I tell you this story about, I think it was Pusa Terry's, I believe it was, who decided they wanted to charge $30 for a can of Lysol wipes, a container of Lysol wipes. And they put that out there on social media, and it was horrible for them from a PR perspective. I don't know why they decided they wanted to charge $30 for a container of Lysol wipes, but in this particular time, it just seemed like a really crappy thing to do to people. And so the internet shamed them appropriately. As a matter of fact, I believe the premier actually referenced them specifically during one of his press conferences. So that didn't go over well for them either. So changing your pricing strategy sometimes isn't a good idea. If you want to take advantage of people in this situation, probably not a good idea. Actually, there was another example would be there was a medical company in the U.S., a medical a pharmaceutical company, I should say, who decided that their particular medication was starting to become more popular because of the pandemic. So they put 100% price increase on it. Again, not the smartest idea. So it really, in these times, again, you want to make sure that people understand, you have empathy, and people understand that you are a genuine individual and you care about other people, you care about helping others. You're just a regular normal human who doesn't want to see the rest of the world burn, is really what it boils down to. So if your pricing strategy in this particular situation is reasonable, don't change a thing. But if it becomes unreasonable, then you probably should change it.
So I'm going to add a few things here. You looked at the one side. I'm looking at the other side, where I've seen a lot of people change either the feature set of the lower end products or reduce their pricing during this time to gain customers. Like Zoom. You know, you used to not be able to have meetings with more than 2 people for more than 40 minutes on the free product, but they've changed that. So they're getting way more usage because everyone's at home. There are other people who are Moz, for example. They search engine tool. They've turned all their training free till May 1st. So you can go tip for everyone, go sign up for Moz free SEO training. So you can get hundreds, $500 plus worth of free SEO training, you know, but they're trying to drive the usage of their product. So there are ways to adjust your pricing strategy to grow your business long term. If they're saying, hey, take our training and we're going to give it to you for free, but generally once you've done that, you're training on our product, we're going to make way more sales off of that. You know, is that a bad thing?
I mean, I kind of like what Zoom has done. However, they didn't give me a discount on my paid account. So I'm not sure I really want to use them as an example. But I mean, yes, what they've done is great. I do agree with that. You're right. There's good sides and bad sides for everything. But as far as I'm concerned, I think that the pricing strategies are very fluid. I mean, there's an old adage, you know, what should I charge you? You charge what the market will bear. If your situation allows you to raise your rates and still be fair about it, then it's fine. I mean, look, at the end of the day, if you're experiencing a high volume of sales during this time and you can't keep up, and you raise the rates a little bit so you can hire more people to keep up, is that really a bad thing? Right. So, I mean, I don't know there's no magic bullet when it comes to pricing, but the idea that you can adjust a pricing strategy to manage in any situation is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah. And, you know, taking advantage of this to offer discounted services to those people who need it through this time to grow your business is not a bad thing. So it depends on, you know, what discount or pricing. So let's move on a little bit. How do you feel about adding social cause to your business to help drive sales and adding another dimension to the customer experience? Thanks for the question, Tyler.
All right. So just for clarification, when you say social cause, you're talking about getting on board with some of the other, what do you call it? Social, why words escaping me right now.
Yeah.
During this pandemic, everybody's trying to come together, and there's different causes that are popping up, and you know, you can go to try to help people work at food banks. You can do those types of things. Is that what you're getting at?
I think they're saying this specific event aside, you know, if I align myself with climate change or maybe a specific cause where 10% of my proceeds go to here, or, you know, we're helping build freshwater wells somewhere, or, you know, doing that, does that, how do you feel about attaching, you know, cause to your business, and whether that is adding another dimension to your customer experience?
So in essence, I would say yes, if it is aligned with your business goals and values that you had previously adhered to or mentioned, or two, if it's a cause that's close to your heart and you can adequately say to somebody why you're into it, excuse me, then by all means, yes. If it looks like you're just pandering and trying to take advantage of a situation and try to get your name out there just on the backs of somebody else, people will see through that. So I wouldn't necessarily want to. I wouldn't recommend that unless it. Again, this is the time where you need to show genuine empathy and genuine feelings for other people and their plight and how you want to help them. If it seems like you are just trying to make a buck, it's not going to fly.
I agree. So I think it depends on approach. Tyler, let us know if we got that question right for you. But you can do this authentically. Doing this authentically is easy. You just have to actually go from the heart. So if you're going to support a social cause, go with the one you actually like, so that it means something to you, and get them involved and make sure that, you know, it's a win-win. So there's no question of authenticity around that. That's just kind of how I feel.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
John was asking, can a marketing firm be paid by the sales results? Now, I always find this is an interesting question. I get this asked a lot. And I think there are some companies that do that, but they're usually around well-established products and services that have a regular sales rate. I don't think you have a package like that. Can you speak to this?
No, that's not a business model that we typically utilize when it comes to our sales and what we're doing. Do I think it's a good idea? I mean, I suppose, but unfortunately, because results can't be guaranteed for marketing, it's really hard for us to say, yeah, if your sales increase by 10%, then we should get some of that money. I don't necessarily know that that's the best way to do that, simply because marketing is just one piece of the puzzle, as sales is just one piece of the puzzle as well. It's a combination of a bunch of different things that's going to help you build your business and make your business grow. So to say that I would tie my services just to your revenue opportunities, that's not necessarily something I think that is the best idea for marketers in general. And if somebody is insisting on saying that, you know, that they will only do work for you if you give them part of your revenue, I would think twice about that. That's just my own personal opinion.
Yeah, I know there's salespeople specifically that will work wholly on commission, but you know, you need to have that kind of relationship with them. Also, where I've seen this kind of relationship work is where there's a well-established product, where I think, I'll give you an example. BrainStation uses a cold calling, cold emailing sales service for their courses. And they've been bought, BrainStation was bought by someone else. I can't remember now off the top of my head. So if you're taking one of their, I don't know, $2,000, $2,500 courses, there's people who call you. And that's a decent price ticket, and they get a certain amount of money per hot lead that they, or per sale they get. Now, I don't know if there is a certain amount per call plus a certain amount per sale, but that is a completely outsourced service that they get definitely a bonus structure based on how many sales they make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and companies like that out there exist. But again, if you're talking about like, would a marketing company just go based on your revenue and sales? I'm not sure that would be a good mix.
Yeah, because like I was saying, that sounds more like a sales company, because again, marketing is you know, all about your brand, about
Mm-hmm.
knowing your target audience, know about your messaging, know about your copywriting, and doing all that kind of stuff. And if you don't have a track record, how could a marketing agency know what they can do for you, and at what point you will actually put the brakes on their effort and stop them from making money? There's so many things that can happen there that it's a slippery slope.
Yes, definitely.
So I've got a few questions here as we're waiting for a few more from the chat room. So here I am in this age. I'm trying to reach out in a B2B sales environment, not me specifically, but in this scenario. but I can't meet people. I would normally go to, say, TorontoStarts startup drinks events where I can meet small business owners, but now here I am. So how do I reach out on LinkedIn, social media, email, and initiate a relationship with someone I don't know right now to just try and start that sales experience?
To someone you don't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that one's a little more challenging, obviously. Thank you for that question, Craig. Because obviously, if you've met the person before and you've kind of created a little bit of a relationship with them, you could try to see if they would meet for a virtual coffees, as what people have been doing these days. You get on your Skype, you get on your Skype or your Zoom or whatever, and you just have a simple conversation and try to figure out whether or not you're going to be able to do business. However, if you've never met them before, I would say if you're talking on LinkedIn, try to find out if they know somebody that you know and see if you can get an introduction that way. That would be probably the best way to try to meet somebody you've never met before. If there's somebody who you decide that you want to get introduced to, there's probably somebody in your network who knows them. I don't know if anybody's old enough to remember that 6 Degrees of Separation with Kevin Bacon. They pretty much everybody in the world is within 3 or 4 degrees of somebody else. So you just need to do some homework and try to figure out where in your network they could end up. Start with company names though, if that's helpful at all. As if they work for a specific company that you know of, maybe somebody in your network will know them. So you can not Google, in LinkedIn, look up their company name. It will tell you actually I think it's on the right hand side, whether or not you have any contacts that work there. And if there's a specific person who might be able to, and like say they work, your contact works in IT, and the person you want to talk to is in purchasing, maybe they could make an introduction via their internal network to get you into that and get you in front of that person. There's a whole host of different ways that you can do that through LinkedIn. You could try like Twitter or Instagram, direct messaging people if they are sharing interesting information that is of interest to you, and start trying to get a relationship that way. I mean, that's as part of our business. We work with influencers, and so sometimes when you want to get to meet a new influencer and introduce them to what it is that we do, sometimes that's what we'll do is Candace will message them on Instagram and say, hey, this is a company we're working with. Would you be interested in working with us and working with us to build that relationship? And sometimes that's all it takes. But again, this really boils down to being genuine and authentic with people. If you come across as you're just, you're trying to con somebody, it's never going to work. But if you come across as just saying, look, I'm interested in working with you. I want to have a conversation with you to see if it's something that is going to be beneficial for both of us. A lot of times people are receptive to that. And listen, you're not going to be able to sell to everybody, which is one of the reasons why even within your target audience, you're not going to be able to sell to everybody. But once you identify the individuals you want to sell to, and some of the behaviors that they are experiencing and things that they're doing, let that guide you as to what you're going to do when you're talking to them. Because really, if you can create that rapport and gain that trust, you have a better shot of getting that business.
Yeah, I approach things slightly differently around this, which is, if you're approaching people cold online, LinkedIn, somewhere else, don't sell them. Figure out another message and another opportunity where you're engaging them on a different level, because then you can build that trust, build that relationship, build the rapport doing something else. Oh, by the way, we do these other things. And, then you're naturally in a different conversation. Mm-hmm. And I know that sounds vague, but here's a great example. I host a podcast. I am doing these webinars. I tell people to host conferences. I tell people to do this stuff where you're reaching out to people saying, hey, I'm talking to people in this industry who are solving problems and working on challenges, doing this. Or maybe you're doing a survey for the industry and you want to interview people and you'll share the results of the survey. Or there's 1,000 different ways to reach out to somebody that you're not directly trying to sell them, to start building that relationship. You got to understand that building that relationship takes a little time. And if you're just emailing or reach out and say, you want to buy my product, here it is, it's great, then you're going to get, then it's a simple numbers game. You better start automating that and hit 10,000 people a day and hope that a small percentage of people respond to get sales. It's okay. That's a strategy. It's not a very effective strategy, but it is a strategy.
If you throw enough stuff at the wall, some of it will stick.
I rather go and say, if you know your targets, you can start building a relationship with them by responding to what they post, by commenting on what they post,
engaging with them. Yep.
Engaging with them, and really not actually leaving good stuff. Hey, I read that was great. Have you read this book? I like what this guy said. I like what this. What about point? I disagree with point 7 because of that. Whatever the case may be, engage with them, because one, if people are posting content, they're doing it for a reason. They want engagement. They want that stuff, and most of us don't get that much engagement. So we'll welcome all of it. So you start building that relationship. Plus, you're building, if you're talking about something, you're building your interest and knowledge in a certain field with that individual. So when you bring those stuff up later, I'm always looking for panelists. I'm always looking for speakers. I'm always looking for subject matter experts. So reach out to bloggers, people who wrote books, people in your expert to build that. Not everyone has to be a direct sale, but you're starting to build that network and those relationships that can connect you with all those people.
Yeah. There's an old saying, your network is basically your net worth. And if you have built the right network, you can find a way to do pretty much anything.
Well, it's been just over an hour, and it looks like we've answered all the questions. Do you have any last advice for our audience?
Well, people laugh at me when I say this, but it's kind of one of my mantras when I think about sales. If you can get into people's hearts and minds, you can get into their wallets.
It's so true.
It is really, yeah. They will be more than happy to pay for your service and what it is that you're doing for them. If you can just get into their hearts and minds.
Yeah, and that's exactly true. Thank you very much for your time, Trevor. And where can people find out more if they're listening and not looking at the slide on the screen?
All right. Well, they can find us at songbirdmarketing.com. We have Twitter at songbird_TO. For our Instagram, we are at songbird_MC. Where else? I think that's it. Oh, and we have a LinkedIn page too, which I can't tell you off the top of my head what the thing is, but I think it's
SongBird Marketing and Communications.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Trevor, for your time today. And thank you everyone for the questions, and we'll talk to you tomorrow at noon.
All right. Thanks, guys.